This is our Breezy V series of our Pro Workshop. So this is part one. That little foreshadowing, there will be additional parts in this series next year. So be on the lookout for additional updates from us. But before we get into Breezy V, I wanted to give you guys some updates. One thing is our website, our product pages are changing. So that's going to be a rolling change through the end of the year and into early January. So if you go to a product page and it looks a little bit different, that's okay. It's intentional. So we've gotten a lot of feedback, and just from analytics show that most people, when they do visit our website, are looking for spec sheets and instruction sheets, LM79s, IES files. So we wanted to make sure that we put that right at the top of our product pages, so that's easy to get to, and also have now created a little bit of a spec table to just kind of easily describe what you might be looking for. Then lower down the page, you'll have videos, installation photos, also some case studies from us. So just be aware of that. Spec sheets are also changing to this new look from our branding. So really cool update there. And little, again, foreshadowing, but on this page for our shoebox wall pack retrofits, you can click a little link that'll take you to our Flex Color products that are now available for samples. So here's a look at what we've been up to. A lot of new products, as we are known for. So there's just some things that have come into stock over the last month and a half. Starting on the left is 8232 is our 400 watt high bay. We now have a 277 through 480 volt version of that. We are the only manufacturer that offers a directional high bay lamp in a 480 volt rated product. So really cool to offer that. Then we have a new dimmable downlight. We've had the 8054 around for a bit, but now we've got a 120 volt version that is dimmable. The base CR is just a more basic circular retrofit kit from Remfoss brand. So 5-year warranty product. Still does have Flex Watt and Flex Color, so give that a look. And then LBI junction box. So this really works out well if you're trying to use our LBI product as a stairwell fixture. Nice little plug in there, and to kind of hide your wiring right there. So then next, just a horizontal PL lamp that is now updated to meet DLC. So that's a Type A PL lamp. Along with the LBI, we've got a new really cool 90-degree cable. That's great if you're doing suspended mount LBIs. So we've done some of these in retail, and especially grocery stores is where we've had some cool successes, including one of our latest case studies that's on our LBI page. So go check that out. Our new solar post top Gen 2 just rolled into stock last week. This now has the better battery performance, so it charges down to -4 degrees Fahrenheit. Awesome product there. Then for December, trickling in this month will be our 8029 Super Flex. So we've been offering this in a Flex Color option for a little over a year now. But the Super Flex version, which will be a rolling change on this, will do 12, 18, and 24 watts. So replacing anywhere from a 70 watt HID up to 150 watts, all in one lamp, 9-in-1. Then really cool from the Remfoss brand is wall pack fixtures that are Flex Color. A couple of them are even Flex Watt. So those are actually now in stock. You'll see an email from us this week. So just a little ahead of schedule update for everybody on the call today, but be on the lookout for that for more information. And to go along with that, we actually have sample inventory of our Flex Color shoebox wall pack retrofits. So that's like our popular 8087, 88, 89, 90. Those now are 3-in-1, 3K, 4K, 5K. So really exciting. We're the first ones to be able to offer that to our channel partners. And then in February, we've got some really cool products from the Solera brand, a 50 watt or 400 watt equal for an area light that's hybrid or off-grid. And then really cool that we've got a Flex Color hybrid wall pack that'll be available in February as well. So some really great ads on the Solera brand. And last but not least, what we're here to talk about today is Breezy V. So some of you guys might be asking yourselves, Doug, David, Rebecca, what are we doing talking about this today if inventory is not available till February? Very fair question. So number one is we're really just super excited about this product. There's been a lot of work over a long period of time that's gone into this. And we've had some side conversations with our channel partners, and it's just time to let everybody know what we've been up to and what we're doing. The second is there's a lot of this EV charging is going to be involved in specification, and that has a decent sales cycle to it. So we want to make sure that you're able to use our products to get spec'd on upcoming jobs. And then the other big thing is in the infrastructure bill that's been passed and in process is there's $7 billion dedicated to EV charging infrastructure. So we just want to make sure that this brand new product category from light efficient design is something that you guys are aware that we offer. David's going to get into a little bit of why light efficient design lighting company is getting into EV charging, and so I'll let him take that when we get there. But then last thing to touch on is this new wall pack solutions, 3 ways, 3 brands. So I mentioned the flex color wall pack fixtures, but to complement that, this is kind of like a full merchandising plan of like a good, better, best, if you will. But flex color wall pack lamps, flex color wall pack fixtures, and flex color hybrid solar fixtures as well. So really excited to be able to offer this complete offering. No other manufacturer in the world can offer a channel partner these type of solutions. So it's really neat for us to continue to innovate and find ways to bring some of these to market for all of you. So be on the lookout for more information the next couple days or later this week on this, I would say. And then the last thing I wanted to update everybody on is our sales organization is growing, which is really exciting. Our ownership is investing in people to help grow out the organization. So just wanted to let you guys know that we're going to have some additional resources that'll help you guys more as well. And these are all brand new positions, incremental to our existing sales organization. So back in October, you should have seen an announcement from us, but we hired a director of solar, Chris Pickering. So he's helping lead the charge on solar for us, and it's been a great addition to the team. Then just 2 weeks ago, we hired our East Coast project sales manager, Robert Croucher, to help us out on the East Coast. So that's again a new position there. And then starting January 1st, we're going to have a South Central regional sales manager covering Texas, Oklahoma, and a couple of other surrounding states. So I'm really excited that the company's sees the value in investing in people, especially on the sales team. So we're excited to roll into the new year with these three new hires, and I believe that's going to provide a lot of value to all of you that are here on the call today. So in different ways. So that, Rebecca, is what's going on at Light Efficient Design right now. And next up is the main event. David Gershaw is going to walk you guys through the why and how and everything along with what we're doing as a company getting into electrical vehicle chargers. So David, it is now your time to shine.
All righty, thanks, Doug. Let me just get the video back going here. 1 second. All righty. Okay. So thank you everybody for joining us for this presentation. This is a topic that is extremely exciting to myself, to everyone here at our company. And this is a topic that I've been researching now for a number of years, since 2015, when I had my first EV, a BMW i3. I'll show you that in a second. But since 2015, when I had that first EV, I knew that I wanted to be involved in this space. And it's become very evident, I think, to all of us in the past, maybe 6 months, 9 months, or 12 months, that the automotive industry, both passenger vehicles as well as fleets, commercial vehicles, Amazon trucks, USPS delivery vans, all of these different vehicles are going to be going in the direction of electric, whether we like it or not. The momentum is there. I'll show you in a few slides some comments that Elon Musk had about the momentum that's happening in this industry, and we're going to be a part of it. It's going to be an amazing part, not only of our company, but I'll show you for a few reasons why I believe that all of us in the electrical space whether you're a manufacturer like us, a distributor, a rep, a contractor, or an ESCO, all of these different players are certainly able to play a role in this really exciting growth. So with that, let me kick off our presentation. Okay. So welcome to ProWorkshop. The goal of this ProWorkshop is to learn, connect, and sell better. Here it is. Here is that first vehicle that we had back in 2015, 16. This is a BMW i3. These photos were taken in the top left at the National Grid Energy Efficiency Trade Show. And, you know, we had our Remfoss logos all over that car, really proudly displayed over that car. And in the bottom right, that was a customer and I believe her son and her son's friend that were coming by. We had a program where we invited our customers to come and experience driving an EV, because back then in 2015, 16, and even still today, there's a lot of people that haven't experienced what it's like to feel that instantaneous torque that you get from the electric motor. And it's a pretty cool experience to feel the regenerative braking as well. So if anybody hasn't had a chance to drive an EV, there's so many more models, so many new models that are going to be released in 2022. I was at the LA Auto Show 2 weeks ago, and I believe there are something like 105 to 110 new electric models from existing manufacturers that we've heard of. You know, certainly the Ford F1 Lightning, that's a really exciting addition, Tesla. But then there's a bunch of new companies, Rivian, Lucid, there's a Vietnamese vehicle manufacturer. So there's a number of different manufacturers, but there's going to be about 105 to 110 new models released in 2022. So there's definitely going to be an opportunity for you to experience what an electric vehicle is in the next coming years, even if you haven't yet. All right, so Breezy EV, this is going to be the name of our electric vehicle charging lineup. We are starting with a number of products that I'm going to present to you today, but this is going to grow. This is going to be a big category for us. So keep in mind what you see on the screen today is just the beginning. And we really wanted to pick a brand name that went along with both the, you know, the kind of the excitement of electric vehicle and the fast charging aspect of it. So Breezy V electric vehicle charging is the brand under the Light Efficient Design Company for electric vehicle charging. The agenda today is to do a little overview on the market and then the technology. It will kind of be a little bit of a 101. I go into a little bit more depth on the market overview, but for some of you that already are experienced with the technology, it'll be a little bit of a 101, but I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page with different nomenclature and different words that we use in this EV space. Why are we entering this space? Like Doug said, why is a lighting company entering into this EV space? I'm going to give you a couple of great reasons. We're going to talk about the product. We're going to talk about software. It turns out that software is a very key component of the EV solution. You know, at the surface, why do you need software, right? This is just something that plugs into the wall. You plug your car into it, you're good to go. It turns out that the software is actually a huge component and a very common component of these EV charging solutions. We'll talk a little bit about how the sales process would work. So from us to you, to your customer, how that flow would work. And then I'll show you a couple of teasers of images of future product roadmap. And then of course, we'll finish with our famous quiz to make sure that you guys are paying attention and make sure that I'm actually teaching you something today. I really want this to be a dialogue back and forth, which reminds me, if you do have any questions, any ideas, anything that needs clarification, please type it into the Q&A. There's two different buttons up top, or down below, there's the chat, and then there's the Q&A. The Q&A, I'll be happy to go over after the quiz is finished, and it really makes it easier if you put all your questions in that Q&A to keep them in one clean spot rather than putting them in the chat. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the overview and the state of the market. Here's a slide that shows that 3.1 million EVs were sold in 2020. This is globally, which makes up about close to 5% of new passenger sales. But that's going to rise. There's multiple different research institutions that are showing that based on their research, by 2030, so that's only, 8 years from now, they're thinking that this is going to approach about 50% of passenger car sales. And this isn't even accounting for all of the fleet. You know, Amazon made a huge investment into Lucid. And there's another of other big companies that have made investments into other EV vehicle, electric vehicle manufacturers for their fleets. So this is showing that about 30 million per year EVs will be sold, which will account for about half by 2030. Who leads the charge towards electric mobility today? This was as of the end of 2020. You can see China. China has huge per year sales of EVs. Germany and other European countries have growing increases in sales. United States, though, is quickly catching up. I think that United States is going to be number 2 going forward. As far China is going to stay number 1. They're making a real hard push, but I believe United States is going to make a strong number 2 place for the number of EVs sold per year. I think they're one of the reasons why there's so many EVs sold in China is so many people didn't have vehicles before. So it's a whole new market. You have so many people entering into the middle class in China that have never purchased a vehicle, and the Chinese government's making a real hard push to make sure that their first vehicle is an EV and not a internal combustion engine. This is showing just the growth from, say, Q2 of 2021 compared to Q2 of last year. So this shows that, I know there's a lot on this slide, but in Q2 of 2021, there were 118, this is just US, by the way. The previous 2 slides I know were global. This one's focusing on the US. So in Q2 2021, about 118,000 EVs were sold compared to only about 30,000 in Q2 of 2020. So that's a 250% growth. And this is if we look at the whole market, if we include both purely battery EVs and also hybrids and plug-in hybrids, about 8.5% of the vehicles sold in the United States as of Q2 of 2021 were electrified versus only 4% last year. So if we can kind of extrapolate that to next year, I think there's going to be even more significant growth next year. I'm sorry. This is a chart. This is from Kelley Blue Book, our old friend Kelley Blue Book. And I just wanted you to kind of have an idea in the United States, which are the most popular EVs. We can see the Tesla Model Y is very popular up top there. We just test drove that for my sister. Awesome vehicle. Tesla Model 3 is number 2, but then there's a number of manufacturers that we've heard of, right? Chevy Bolt, the Mustang, Volkswagen is going to be a really heavy player in the EV space. Porsche Taycan, Audi e-tron, Volvo XC40. I had a chance to drive that. Awesome. Hyundai, Kia at the LA Auto Show are all showing new EVs. So this list is going to grow. I don't think this is every single vehicle sold in 2021 that was purely EV, but it's close to it. So what do we get on there? Maybe 25. Like I said, there's something over 100 EVs that are going to be released in 2022 into the U.S. market. So this table is going to grow by a huge percentage next year. Money is pouring in fast into this industry. We've all heard of, as Doug alluded to, this bipartisan U.S. infrastructure bill that is passing. And this includes about $15 billion into EV as a whole. If we look at it, there's about $7.5 billion going into EV infrastructure and about $7.5 billion going into like electric buses and transit. But even that electric buses and transit will require different types of chargers that could, we could participate in those markets as well. So $15 billion, a huge part of this infrastructure bill is being thrown into EV infrastructure, EV vehicles. And this is just the federal funding, right, from this infrastructure bill. This does not include state level funding. This does not include city level funding. This does not include all the money that's going to be thrown into it from the private sector. So just a huge dollar amount in the United States alone, and I know Canada as well, in the next couple of years. And I listened to there's a great Elon Musk interview. I listened to this podcast called The Journal, which is available on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It's by Wall Street Journal, and they interviewed Elon Musk, I think last week. It may have just been as recent as last week. And his comments about the infrastructure bill was kind of funny. The Wall Street Journal reporter was all excited about it and, touting how much it was going to add to the growth of electric vehicles. And you know what Elon Musk said? He says, we care less about the infrastructure bill here at Tesla. Nobody cares about it. Nobody talks about it. And I think his point with that has been that Tesla has thrown so much fuel on the fire in the last, decade, really, since they entered the EV space, that they believe the momentum's there. They don't think that anything can stop it, and that, sure, the infrastructure bill is certainly not going to hurt it, but that, the momentum is there and it's going full speed ahead, whether anybody likes it or not. There's a number of different, talking about, funding, there's so many different rebates out there, utility rebates. If we look at, basically, if you go to any of your utility website, here's Sarasota County, $2,000 or $4,000, Austin Energy up to, I think, $3,000, PSE&G gives like $30,000 towards infrastructure, and $7,500 per charger, SRP, $1,500, this is down in Tuscan, hundreds of dollars per charger. Edison will pay 80% of the whole construction costs. Los Angeles Department of Water and Power will pay $4,000. PECO, up to $1,500. Here in Massachusetts, I believe National Grid and Eversource will give upwards of 80 or 90% of the project cost. So, if we compare this to what we saw in lighting, right? If we put our lighting hats on for a second, our LED lighting hats on for a second, and we think about the early days of LED lighting and how the utilities incentivize them, it was not even close to the percentage of utilities participating and the dollar amount being thrown at installations. LED utility incentives were kind of a slow upwards trickle. This EV charging stuff, this is just moving so fast. Almost every utility in the United States and Canada already has a program. And if they don't have a program, I'd say by the end of 22, they will. So, this is not a measure that is going to be installed purely out of pocket. It's definitely something that's going to be supported heavily by your local utility. Let's talk about EV charging technologies. First off, a little bit about the basics. So we have level 1, level 2, and then DC fast charging. All EVs that I know of come equipped with a plug when you buy that car that will plug into a standard 120 volt outlet. But it's a very slow charge. You basically only use that level 1 if you are maybe visiting a friend, right? Maybe you're doing dinner at a friend's house and it was a couple hundred miles away and you want to top it off. But level 1 is not used very often. Level 3, that's going to give your fastest level of charge, but it requires a lot of infrastructure. It requires 480 volts. It requires a lot of space. So level 2 is really that sweet spot. That's where we're focusing. That's not to say that we won't release level 3 fast chargers, but our focus today is certainly on that level 2 space. A question that I often see asked is, do these charging stations work with all EV car models? And the answer is yes. The standard for the level 2 plug is called J1772. Here's an image of it. You can see the plug itself on the left, and then on the right, there's the female receptacle that's inside the car that plug sticks into. And Tesla is the only manufacturer that uses a different connector, but their cars come with an adapter out of the box. So even a Tesla that has a different female receptacle on the vehicle can utilize the standard J1772 plug. And this is what that Tesla adapter looks like. Basically it's just a small piece of black plastic. It's like 3 inches long that plugs into that J1772, and then the vehicle would be on this end. So it's almost universal. So you do not have to worry about, putting a charging station in front of your business or selling one to one of your customers and then having different vehicles, different manufacturers pulling up and saying, oh, I can't charge here. It's universal with what we're talking about. And here's just a quick graphic as well that not only talks about the different levels, but also a couple of the key points associated with it: voltage, amps, charging load, and charging time. So first off, like we said, level 1, we're not participating in this. This is something that usually comes or always comes with the vehicle from the factory. That plugs into 120 single phase voltage AC, 12 to 16 amps, and you're getting about 3 to 5 miles per hour of charge. That means if you to put that into kind of layman's terms, if we plug in our car for an hour, we're going to add 3 to 5 miles of drivable range to that battery. Level 3, again, we're not participating in this today, but we very likely will in the future. This is almost always 480 volt, 3-phase AC. So you need that infrastructure. Most buildings don't have that. You need 480 volts, 3-phase, almost always greater than 100 amps. Some of the newer level 3s can be 200, 300, 400 amps. And you're adding about 60 to 80 miles in 20 minutes. So whereas with that level 1, we're only adding 3 to 5 miles per hour. In 20 minutes here, we're adding 60 to 80 miles. And level 2 is the sweet spot in the middle where we're participating. You can install these at 208 or 240 volt single phase AC. You don't need 3-phase, but 208 to 240 volt single phase. If you were installing these in a parking garage where, obviously a lot of these will be installed, you may have 277 volt. You would need a step-down transformer to transform it down to the voltage required for these chargers, which is single-phase 208, 240. Amperage is typically 12 to 80 amps. Typical right now, as of 2021, is 32 amps. What you'll see in a second is that ours will go up to 48 amps, 48. But you have the ability, kind of like on our lighting products, where you have flex watt. So you have the ability to dial that amperage, change that amperage down to set it to something lower if you don't have that available space on your breaker. And then level 2 can go up to 80 amps. And you're going to see more of that 80 amp, 60, 70, 80 amp charge rate or charging load in fleet vehicles, commercial vehicles, trucks, vans. You're not, as far as I know, you're not going to see that anytime soon in a Tesla or in a Chevy Volt or the Ford F-150 Lightning. Those are going to be 32, 40, and maybe 48 amps. The 60, 70, 80 amps you're hearing about in level 2 charging is really for commercial, industrial type vehicles. And you can add about 12 to 60 miles per hour with level 2 charging. This is a pretty cool energy.gov link. So if you go into energy.gov and you search for this eGallon tool, the eGallon is how much cheaper, talks about how much cheaper it is to drive on electricity versus gasoline. And you pull down from the menu your state. These slides were taken a couple months ago on March 20th, 2021. But you pull down from your state and it talks about the average regular gasoline per gallon dollar amount, and then also the equivalent if you were to, based on the local electricity costs, how much it would cost to drive, to get an equivalent amount of range out of that gallon of gas. So here in Illinois, you can see what that comparison is. I plugged in Massachusetts, you can see what that is, again, lower. Here's California. And then last but not least, here's Ohio. So in almost every state, and this includes Canada as well, although I don't think they're in the pull-down menu for this energy.gov website. I'm sure they have a tool somewhere on a different website. It shows that the driving an electric vehicle at the current electricity rates and at the current gas rates, and these in March 20, 2021, these rates were even lower, right? I know that here in the US, we're paying even higher dollar amounts per gallon than we were back in March. So, this ratio, my guess, is only going to get better, that the gasoline is going to get more expensive. And in some cases, utilities may choose to supplement the cost of electricity for an EV vehicle so that e-gallon, if you will look even more attractive to a typical gallon of gasoline. But, here are the buts. These are the things that I hear about when I hear about, the excitement that I talk about with the electric vehicles. These are the buts that I hear come up, the trepidations, if you will, that I hear come up, the bullet points. Range anxiety. So let's talk about range anxiety. Most EVs today have 250 to sometimes 300 or 350 miles of range, and that's only going upwards. The new Ford F-150 Lightning, they advertise something like 350 miles with 1,000 pounds in the pickup bed, and without that, we hear estimates of about 450 to 500 miles. In a typical day, how many miles are we driving? Of course, on vacations, yeah, we might do hundreds of miles per day, but I'd say that, over 95% of the US and Canada's driving is probably in the range of 20, 30, 40, 50 miles per day, even if you include your commute to work and back. So range anxiety, while it is, something to consider, is certainly becoming less and less of an issue as these vehicle manufacturers add capacity to the batteries, and the battery capacity is going to be increasing at an exponential rate. Battery life, how long do the batteries last? You're going to spend 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, $80,000 on an electric vehicle. Is that battery only going to last a couple of years? Turns out, no. These batteries last a long time. The average is 7 to 10 years of warranty on a new car. So you go in, you buy a new Chevy Volt, you're going to get a 7 to 10 year warranty on that battery. That doesn't mean that the thing is trash after 7 to 10 years. The actual useful lifespan of that battery is significantly longer, but they're warranting that it's going to be holding a reasonable battery capacity. I think it's over 90% of what it was new in 7 to 10 years. What happens to that battery though when it's at the end of the life? That's something, a question I hear come up. it turns out that there's a number of companies, really innovative companies, that are working on solutions for end of life for these batteries. So two things that we see happening today, and I'm sure in the future we're going to see even more. One is recycling. So there's a lot of smart, innovative technologies today and manufacturers that are coming into the space, that are vendors, if you will, that are coming into the space that will take that used battery out of the vehicle and recycle all of the elements out of it and reuse them. And the second interesting technology that we see happening is that there are companies that will take that used vehicle battery, and they will apply that to energy storage. So think about in your home, you know, we're hearing more and more about energy storage at the home. I actually have one in my house in Boston. I have a Tesla Powerwall, which acts as a instead of having a generator, a natural gas generator or a diesel generator or a gasoline generator, I have the Tesla Powerwall in my house that acts as a backup battery. And these could also be used for utility grade or commercial industrial grade energy storage. So, you know, perhaps that battery is not fresh enough to be used in a vehicle, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't have lots of other places to be used for energy storage and residential, commercial, industrial, or utility installations. Can the grid handle all this charging? You know, we have an aging grid in the US and Canada. Can the grid even handle all this charging? The answer is yes. So there have been many upgrades and improvements to our grid over the years. And I just listened to there's a great TED Talk last week. Electrical Distributor Magazine had a great podcast interviewing the head of e-mobility for Siemens, and they're huge into the space. Siemens, just to give you an idea of kind of the volume of some of these big companies, they're estimating just themselves they'll install about 1 million EV chargers in the next 3 years. Amazing volume. And the head of Siemens was asked about this, and they talk a lot to the utilities and to lawmakers. They said there's no problem with the grid. If the grid can handle it, sure, improvements are going to need to be made, and you know many of these improvements are baked into the infrastructure bill. But you know, grid improvements and infrastructure improvements have always been happening. That doesn't mean that we don't have an aging grid, and I don't pretend to be a grid expert. But everything I'm hearing from experts, I know that there's a lot of concern over this, but everything I hear from experts is that yes, the grid can handle this added load. Where's the power generated from? This is a question I hear come up a lot. And this is definitely a reasonable question. You know, today in the United States, not sure about Canada, but in the United States, we have about 20% of our electricity as a whole on the grid is generated from renewables. In the next few years, and certainly in the next decade, that is going to slowly, you know, nobody thinks this is going to happen overnight. It obviously takes a lot of work to add additional power generation, but that percentage is going to creep up to 30, 40, 50, 60% and upwards of that in the next couple of decades. So, you know, yes, only 20% of it is generated from renewables today, and it would be awesome if more of it was generated from renewables today, but it's only on that upward trajectory. And I think it's one of those things, you know, what is it, the chicken or the egg, that, you know, what's going to come first? Is it going to be that we're going to have a renewable grid, or is it going to be that we're going to have needs for that renewable grid? And I think in this case, it's going to be that we're going to have the needs. We're going to have these electric vehicles. We're going to have a lot of different tools installed in our homes and our businesses, such as electric heat pumps, replacing natural gas and perhaps diesel powered home heating and cooling and business heating and cooling. And a lot of these more renewable electrical focused technologies, cars and homes and businesses in our cars and our homes and our businesses are going to create the demand for the utilities rather to switch their grids to more renewable technology, or their power generation to more renewable technology. So we're just a lighting company, right? Why are we getting into this EV space? I love this question, and this is a near and dear focus to mine. So it's really something I've thought a lot about, long and hard about, and I know everyone in our company has. So why is Light Efficient Design Rentboss entering into this space? We have over 12 years developing high power LED fixtures, bulbs, drivers. It turns out that a lot of the engineering resources, the people, the tools, the software, the knowledge required to design EV chargers is very similar to what's required to designing some of this high-powered lighting, LED lighting. So we have the experience already for over 12 years doing this. We have over 12 years experience manufacturing these devices, these high-powered LED devices. We know how to do quality control. We know how to do mass production. We know how to set up processes. So we have that experience. And compare both of number one and number two to some of these startup companies in the EV charging space that we've never heard of. These are new companies. They're funded by venture capital. Some of them have gone public through special purpose acquisition companies, SPACs, very, very quickly at very young stages, very early stages. These companies don't have the experience in development. They don't have the experience in manufacturing. They're just throwing themselves into this space without any previous experience, any previous knowledge. We have over 12 years of experience in development and manufacturing of very similar type electronic devices. We have over 12 years of experience providing after sales support. So what this means. It's all the things that go on after the sale. So it's, dealing with warranty support, dealing with defects, making sure that things get taken care of in a reasonable time frame. We have that experience. And last but not least, we are fully committed to our strong channel relationships. So we've been distributor focused since day one, and that's going to continue to be where we focus our efforts. Compare that to somebody like ChargePoint. I'll pick on ChargePoint just because they're the 50,000-pound gorilla. If we compare ourselves to ChargePoint, they're selling to everybody, right? They'll sell direct to end customers. Sometimes they sell through distribution. They'll sell to everybody, and this is causing a lot of conflict in the space because why would you want to focus your time and energy supporting a manufacturer, supporting a partner, when that partner could go around your back and sell direct to your customer, whether it be a university or maybe a large big box retail or a hospital or a university or whoever. We don't do that. It's not how we do business. It's not how we will do business ever. We are extremely focused on our channel partnerships with our reps, with our distributors. And we believe in that model. And we know that our distributors are going to be a major, I just noticed I spelled distributor wrong. That was stupid of me, but we are focused on the correctly spelled distributor, not the incorrectly spelled one. But that's always the fun part of doing caps locks, right? When you're doing your PowerPoint slides, is apparently it's not smart enough yet to do spell check on caps lock. But we really feel that our distributor partners are going to be such a critical part of the electric vehicle installation because there's so many more components required than just the charger. Conduit, pipe, relays, transformers, all kinds of different electronic hardware that only an electrical distributor can supply. So you're always going to need that electrical distributor in that chain, that installation chain, that sales chain. And we believe that the electrical distributor is going to be the most critical, the most important longtime partner in that role. Here's a couple of little snippets from recent news articles. This one's from August. Why Blink Charging is plunging despite 177% growth in sales. Blink is one of these public companies in charging. ChargePoint, we've all heard of that one. We're in investment mode. We'll reach profitability in time. ChargePoint loses a crazy amount of money. It's insane how much money they lose. These are companies that there's a lot of excitement in the public investment space around EV charging. So these are companies that don't really have the experience in manufacturing and development, in channel partnerships with distribution and after sales support. These are companies that are just trying to capitalize on the buzz of EV charging. Who knows if they'll be around? Are these companies going to go under? Are they going to be around 5 years, 10 years from now to support your customers? We are in excellent financial health. We always have been, and we are going to be here for the long haul. All right, now that we talked about the market, we talked about the technology, we talked about why light efficient design is entering into the space with Breezy V. Let's focus now on the product itself. So we have two different units, and I'll just kind of switch back and forth here. This is the unit without the screen, and this is the unit with the screen. I'm going to focus most of my time today on the unit with the screen. The reason for that is this is really the unit that's going to be most common in your installations, and that is because that there are a number of requirements from utilities, such as the software, I'll talk about that in a second, cellular communication, key card swiping to be able to have a RFID key card in your wallet or on your keychain to be able to walk up to this and have it identify who you are as a driver. Other things like the screen. So in California and more states are going to require that certain data points of the charging session, such as your charge rate, the temperature of the internal unit, the voltage that it's charging at. There's a number of different data points that are going to be required to be displayed in a public or a commercial industrial installation, you need a screen to be able to do that. So this is really the unit that we believe that over 80% of our customers are going to focus on. You can see up here, we can switch from 16 amps all the way up to 48 amps with increments in between. Again, this is so that while the unit itself, we try to make this really, really distributor friendly. So we have one unit that can go up to 48 amps. We don't have different SKUs, just one unit. And our whole philosophy is very modular. And I'll show you what I mean by that. I have a whole philosophy of future-proofing your electric vehicle installation, charging installation. So we have one unit that you'll keep in stock that can go from 16 amps all the way up to 48 amps. Very high quality outdoor rated paint, IP rated and IK rated for really a robust, a rugged housing that can withstand all kinds of temperatures, all kinds of climates, all kinds of rain directly on it. This does not have to be installed under a canopy or in a parking garage like some of them. The ground fault interruption, 4G cellular, which is going to be really important because that's going to be, most of your installations are going to use this 4G cellular. LED indicators right here to indicate if it's charging or not charging, that screen. And then OCPP network connectivity. This has to do with the software. And this refers to open source charge point protocol, which means that we can work with a number of different software manufacturers, software vendors, if you will. And that is instead of what ChargePoint does and some other companies do that lock you in. So think about Apple, iPhone. You're locked in. You got the phone, you got the software, you're locked in whether you want it or not. There's a number of reasons why having that open source software on these, where you can switch between different vendors, is a good way to do it. Unit without the screen, a lot of the same features, can switch between 16 all the way up to 48 amps, just doesn't have that cellular, doesn't have the screen. Okay, here's a few bullet points from the cut sheet. This is a snippet from the cut sheet on the Breezy V 48 amp wall mount unit with the screen. So it goes up to 48 amps, which equates to 11.2 kilowatts, switchable down to 16 amps. It's really sleek, elegant, rugged looking, outdoor rated, flexible mounting options. I'm going to show you what I mean by that in a second, but this is really important. I want you to focus on this for a second. What I mean by flexible mounting options is that this is really designed to be super distributor inventory friendly and also job site installation friendly. So if you look at what ChargePoint does, or what Leviton, which is, by the way, is the manufacturer for ChargePoint, or Bosch, just to pick on a few there, they manufacture and design units that are designed for a certain purpose. So they manufacture a completely separate SKU for a wall mount, pedestal, double pedestal, cable management. We wanted you to be able to mix and match and have limited amount of inventory in stock, but be able to fulfill a number of different configurations or mounting options. And I'll show you how you would do that in a second. High brightness 4.3-inch display, 4G LTE or Wi-Fi or Ethernet for that open charge point protocol, cloud-based EV charging software. But the vast majority of your installations are going to be 4G LTE. I'll talk about a percentage there in a second, but I think over 80% of units installed in commercial, industrial, public settings are 4G cellular. That RFID card reader right here. So this is so that if you have a frequent user or maybe an employee of your company that you want to give access to your charging station, but you don't want to give free access to the public, this allows you to have individual control for employees or key users. And then we have, again, along this line of modularity, we're offering 12, 18, or 25-foot cables in either 40 or 48 amps. And hint, this may be a quiz question later on, so you may want to write it down. But we understand that there are different length cable requirements, needs for different types of installations, a parking garage versus a parking spot. So instead of locking you in and saying, hey, you have to purchase 18 feet at 48 amps, there's also a lot of money, it's a lot of cost in the cables themselves, right? There's a lot of copper in these cables. These are big, heavy duty, heavy gauge cables. So we wanted to be able to give you options. If your customer only needs a 12-foot, 40 amp cable, then they will certainly save cost rather than using a 25-foot, 48 amp cable. But we will give you all of those different options, and these cables are in-field installable. So the cable itself comes with the J1772 plug right here, already terminated at the factory onto that 12, 18, or 25-foot cable, but the cable itself is inserted into the unit and installed into the wiring terminals in the field very easily. Here's a look at the modularity aspect. So the standard unit that you'll keep in stock is our 48 amp unit right here, and that can be wall mounted. That includes everything you need to install it on a wall, wood wall, a concrete wall, whatever it is. But we have a number of different pedestals. You can see them here: a single pedestal, a back-to-back pedestal, a back-to-back pedestal with cable management, a dual side-to-side cable management pedestal. So these are various different pedestals for ground mount installation. So these can be mounted right to a concrete or pavement type installation on the ground. And these accept that wall mount unit. So in other words, if you're going to be purchasing this, and I'll show this in the next slide or a slide or two from now with a couple of Excel rows and columns to have you understand the part numbers. But basically, as a distributor, you're going to be keeping, maybe 100 of these in stock or 200 of these in stock of the wall mount units, and you're going to be keeping various pedestals and various lengths of cables and amperages of cables, and you don't need to keep each SKU in stock of that complete system. This can be installed in the field. So in other words, if you wanted a dual side-to-side cable management system solution, you would purchase that pedestal, you would purchase 2 of the chargers, and then 2 of the cables, of the charging cables. It looks like on this installation, I think these are 18 footers. So you have 5 total items on your PO, and that would all be very easily in-field installable together and configured together: the pedestal, the 2 chargers, and the 2 cables. We can do custom branding and advertising. This is a component of EV charging that's becoming more and more popular. As we're seeing cities, universities, businesses wanting to advertise, promote that they are, providing you this EV charging as a courtesy, or maybe that they're, that you can still be charging for it, but that they're, supporting this technology. So this is a great, billboard, if you will, and we can support you with vinyl wraps. So it's basically the standard SKU of the pedestal, and then we'll support you with custom design vinyl wraps at a upcharge. So here's a look at some of the part numbers just kind of laid out. So these are the different things you'd keep in stock. So you'd keep that wall mount charger in stock. You'd keep a number of different assortments of these cables, maybe not every SKU, but 18 foot is probably going to be over 50% of your business, 18 footers. And, and you might ask, well, your charger can handle up to 48 amps. Why would you bother with 48 amp cables? The reason is twofold. One is that, like I said earlier, there aren't that many passenger vehicles today that can handle even a 48 amp charge. The vehicles themselves have internal chargers in them that are converting the AC to DC to charge the battery. All of the level 2 chargers provide AC. A lot of those are only 32 or 40 amp. So that's one reason. The second reason is that your panel itself may not be able to handle that 48 amp capacity. And the third reason, of course, is to save cost. That 40 amp cable is going to be less costly than your 48 amp. And then you'll have your separate part numbers for your pedestals. And then we'll talk about software in a second, but you have some activations, you have different levels of software, so basic, light, pro, and we'll talk about some of those differences in a moment. You have Ethernet only versus that cellular. That cellular will be more expensive because it's going to include a SIM card and a cellular connectivity plan. And then maintenance plans are also something that are becoming more popular these days. So more and more in level 3 than level 2, but even in level 2, there's a decent amount of maintenance plans is sold with units, which is basically the combination of a extended warranty on the unit and also a service plan for somebody to come out to that unit once a year, wipe it down, test it, ensure that it's working to its proper specifications. And then it also includes, if there was a failure in a certain number of years, it would include the labor to do that. ChargePoint became very popular at offering these maintenance plans, not only in level 3, but also level 2. So we do offer those. We will be offering those to your customers as well. And the real idea here is that everything is one-stop shop. You'll be able to purchase your charger, your software, and potentially even your maintenance all from one vendor, and you're not going to have to pick and choose who you purchase from. So what the heck is the point of software? Why are we so interested in software? Why is it necessary? These are the 3 kind of reasons in my head, the buckets, if you will, that I put the software into. 1, making stations easier to find. 2, managing access and setting pricing. And 3, utility rebates and processing. So on that making stations easier to find component, here's an example of what I mean by that. So you want drivers to be able to find your station. If you are a business and you've installed one of these in front of it and you're trying to generate revenue from it, so you're charging more for the electricity than you're paying for it. Perhaps you're paying 20 cents per kilowatt hour, but you're charging your customer 40 cents per kilowatt hour. You want to drive drivers, no pun intended, towards that charger. PlugShare is the most popular app in the United States and Canada. It may even be the most popular app in the world. And if you have an iPhone or an Android, you download this app. It's actually integrated, I think, on Tesla's screen, a lot of different EV manufacturers. You download this. If you're somewhere new that you don't know where you are, here, this is in Monterey, California, in this example in the middle, you would just plug that into the map, the zip code, and it would show you which stations are within a certain vicinity. And it also kind of acts as the Yelp, if you will, of EV charging. People will be reviewing that station. Is it working? Is it not working? Was there a long line? Is it clean? Is it in a well-lit parking lot? We actually have some ideas for lighting your parking lot better. Hint, looking at the end of this presentation, you'll see where we're headed with combining some of our solar and electric vehicle charging together. But we will integrate with this PlugShare app if you have the software installed on the unit, that cloud-based software installed on the unit. So making stations easier to find is a reason why you would need software. Another reason is managing access and setting pricing. So you want to create rules, right? So you may want to provide charging sessions for your employees. Let's pretend like this woman here is an employee. We give her a light efficient design, because we'll pretend like this station's installed in front of our Middleton facility. So we'll give her a light efficient design, RFID key card, keep in her wallet. And when she walks up to this, she swipes it, she gets her charging session for free. But you may still want to make this charging station available to the public so that people can walk up to it, scan it with you basically walk up to it, there's a barcode on the unit, you scan it with your phone, and you can pay for it either via the app or pay for it just in your browser, just like you would Apple Pay or Google Pay or any other payment system. So you can set rules to give charging free to your employees. You can set rules to charge the public for your charging session, and then you can set different rules for how much they're charged. So maybe they're going to be charged different amounts during the day or different at night if you're paying different demand amounts for electricity. So the software becomes a really critical tool to be able to not only set these rules, or you may want to give it away for free, but again, you can use the app to do that, but you can set rules, you can set different pricing structures, so on and so forth. And then the third reason why the software becomes very important is utility rebates and reporting. The reporting aspect is more for your own use. So think about, as a station operator, let's think about like a fast food chain, like Wendy's, that may put in, multiple of these stations at all their locations. They want to be able to understand how these stations are utilized, how much power is being utilized. You can do some really cool stuff with understanding what kind of vehicles are pulling up to your restaurant. So maybe you're at a fast food restaurant, you can understand the type of driver, the credentials of the driver, how often these types of people are frequenting not only your charging station, but also probably your restaurant or your business, right? We all know that a great way to drive business to your retail establishment can be adding these charging stations there. While you're charging, you're going to have customers going into your restaurant, going into your store to charge. So that's a great reason to be able to understand all that data, collect all that data, and work with that data. And then also on the same slide is the utility rebates. Almost every utility that's offering incentives, and like we talked about before, so many of them require the utilities require this type of software so that they can, one, make sure that the charger is actually installed. They don't want to give you thousands and thousands of dollars of a rebate and then find out that the charger was never actually installed. So one, they can ping it to make sure the thing is live and it's working. Second, they want to be able to do that same reporting. They want to be able to understand how often these stations are being used, when the load is being generated on the grid, when it's not, et cetera, et cetera. And then the third reason would be so that they can do demand response. And they can, in places of the country where the utilities are concerned about grid overload, brownouts, blackouts, they'll be able to go into these stations remotely. And by the way, this is almost always a voluntary thing that you can sign up for with your utility that gives you an incentive above and beyond the standard incentive. But if you're eligible and want to sign up for demand response, it can be very lucrative. You can sign up for an even higher rebate amount so that the utility can have the ability, if that ever takes place, to go in and crank it down and limit the output or turn the output off to that charger so that the grid is not overloaded. So community charging is the terminology, the words that you'll see used associated with kind of this whole aspect of making chargers available to the public, that you're going to install a charger perhaps on your private property in front of your retail establishment, in front of your office, like we're doing here in Middleton at our innovation facility, but you're going to make those chargers available to the community, to the public. So what are the benefits? I'm not going to go into too much detail here. There's a lot here, but just know that we have a lot of collateral. We have a lot of collateral that's co-marketed with our partner Amp Up to help you go into a workplace or university, like shown in this first little bucket here, and explain to them what are the advantages to having a charger installed in front of your property and how does the software work. So, things like at the workplace or university, ongoing sustainability and revenue reporting, earning revenue during off-peak hours, automating management, like we talked about, the different types of groups, so staff, students, visitors. Maybe you want to give it away to students and faculty, but you want to charge visitors and other types of people on that campus. So workplace and university is a number of reasons why you'd want to charge and want the software. Utilities and government, retail, we talked about attracting customers and with reservable storefront charging, enticing customers with discounts. This is pretty cool. This is happening today. I saw a charging station recently, an installation that one of our partners did, and it was something like a combination with a coupon. So if you went into the store and spent up to $100, you got your charging session for free. And you can do this with the Amp Up software. It's very cool. Multi-unit dwelling, multifamily housing. It's going to be a huge place where this is used. Fleets, and then hospitality. So again, we have a collateral. We actually have a number of 10, 15, 20 different marketing pieces that are co-branded with our partner Amp Up, that if you're going into do a fleet sale, if you're going into a hotel to do a hospitality sale, whatever it may be, we have a 1 or 2 pager to help address all the different things that they may be interested in and how we can help with that. Amp Up, EV charging made simple. This is one of our key partners in this space for software. While we are open source, like I said, we believe that Amp Up is going to be a phenomenal partner for us and for you. We can install this software on our unit from the factory, and it's much less cost than a lot of our competitors, or a lot of Amp Up's competitors rather, half or a third the cost of ChargePoint and others. And it really has the full solution set and a great UI to make it super easy to go in and set everything up, all your pricing rules, all your structures, get your reporting. It's a really, really great tool. For station owners, the station owner being the person that's operating that charging station in front of their building. Again, these are some of the key bullet points. We went over some of them, but just to kind of summarize: real-time analytics and monthly reporting, setting pricing, tracking CO2. This is going to be a bigger and bigger component of how we think about energy efficiency, is how much carbon emissions are coming from your business. Easily cash out revenue with direct deposit. So this software makes it super easy to go in and decide who gets the revenue. So are you going to have an auto deposit to perhaps the ESCO's bank account, to the distributor's bank account, to that end user's bank account? You can decide how that's set up. You can manage multiple groups, and you can effortlessly save money with load management. This is a key point. So load management, just to give you a quick little summary, is, and a great example I'll give here is our facility in Middleton, Mass. So in Middleton, we're going to install 4 48 amp charging ports. We're going to install 4 48 amp chargers. With that being said, we don't have the breaker space to be able to do that. We don't have that allowable breaker space. So with the Amp Up software tool, with Amp Up's load management tool, we don't need any additional hardware, but with the software, we can install 4 48 amp loads on a panel that does not have that much space on it. And basically, it's going to distribute the load accordingly and never exceed what we have available on our panel. So it's a great way to do an installation where you don't have enough capacity on your breaker panel, but you don't have to install, you don't have to install any additional hardware to divvy up that load, if you will. The mobile app, So this is something that a driver is going to download on their phone, an EV driver, not the station owner, but the driver. It's available in the App Store of Apple and Google. It's going to make it easy to access the largest shared charging network out there, get real-time analytics of how often you're charging, the amount of time that you're spent charging, where you're charging, flexible authentication. So through the app, you could say you're frequenting that station. Maybe, we're going to install 4 of these in front of our building in Middleton, Mass. Maybe there's an employee at the building next to us that has an EV and they want to charge her every day. So instead of having to every day go up there, scan the barcode to pay through their phone, they can, through the AmpUp app, choose, I think for $5 or $10, to have them AmpUp send them a unique RFID card, so they can just go up and swipe that key card on the RFID reader on the unit. On-demand support, this is really important. So there'll be an 800 number on every single unit that has AmpUp installed on it or through the app, and you can call that 800 number. So if it's not working or if there's an issue with payment, there's going to be constantly monitored support. Reserve a station in advance. So maybe you are anticipating that you're going to be at a certain charger at 4 p.m. today. You can reserve that in advance so that it'll make sure that nobody's in that space using that charging station before that. And then you can bookmark stations that you frequently charge at so that you know which ones are maybe the lowest cost, or which ones are in the safest parking lot that are most well lit, et cetera, et cetera. So these are all things that the driver is going to be interested in. And the better the experience you can make for the driver, the more interested and willing they are going to be to pull up to your charger instead of somebody else's, and therefore you can receive the revenue instead of somebody else. There are a few different community manager plans from AmpUp, and I can show these price points because these are MSRPs that will not be marked up. So the customer will always be paying the amount of money I show up on the top of the screen. So there's a number of different levels of AmpUp. And by the way, this isn't assuming, so it's $135 a year per charger or per port. And this is assuming cellular 4G communication. 175, there's a 225. This is going to be your most common. And then there's a Pro at 325 that includes some things like extra time of use features and load management features. But the 175 and the 225, and I think the 225 specifically, are going to be your most common. And if you compare these yearly costs to anybody else out there, like I said, they're about a half to a third. This is an awesome, awesome tool that's integrated right into the AmpUp software at no cost when you sign up for the service. If you're going out and trying to sell these stations, this is a great tool. This is an ROI tool. So you have a salesperson with an iPad, and you would be going up to an installation, and very quickly you can help them understand how much revenue and how much cost is going to be per month, and what their ROI is, and what their estimated net profit is monthly. So you go up to a customer with this on their iPad that you're trying to sell these stations to. How many charging stations are they putting in? What's the hardware cost? What's the installation? What's the incentive? What's your local electric rate? What can you charge per kilowatt hour? We can help you estimate that or suggest an amount based on what others are charging in your area to be competitive. And this is going to help you understand the number of days to break even, and then your estimated net profit monthly. So in this example case, this customer is paying $439 a month in electricity and software, and their revenue is $950. So their net is right here. So this is a great tool. Over 70% of projects will use software. So this is excluding residential single family. So let's take out those single family, parking or garage installations at home. But if we look at everything else, over 70% today of projects will use software. And I think this is going to go up and up and up for the reasons that we discussed on those previous slides. Our go-to-market strategy is as follows. So this is actually a better way to look at it here because it flows. So for example, if you're a distributor, you'll put 100 units into inventory of that charger unit. And then, for example, maybe you're a distributor and receive a order from a contractor for 7 pieces for a local project. You already have those 100 pieces in your distribution warehouse. You're going to send Light Efficient Design a PO for 7 pieces of software in a provisioning worksheet filled out. And with this, we can do all the provisioning for you so that by the time those units, or in a timely fashion when those units are installed by your customer, everything is filled out in the back end of the software. The customer is registered. The types of things, just to give you an idea, that would be filled out on that worksheet the address of the installation. How many units in this case, in this example, 7. Are they going on a pedestal? Are they going on a wall? We can help you fill out some of those rules. Do you want to give access to your employees for free? Do you want to charge the public, et cetera, et cetera? We can set all this up for you so that by the time these units get to the field, get to your customer, your electrician who doesn't have an IT degree and doesn't have experience, a lot of past experience with EV charging, although hopefully they'll be getting more and more as they do more of these installations, they'll just install these units and they'll be ready to go. They'll run through a test sequence and everything will be loaded up, ready to go in the back end. So that you don't require somebody to come out to the job site and set everything up for you. The electrician can do that by themselves. We believe in a future-proof EV charger philosophy, and that means 2 things for us. One, if we look at kind of the mechanical aspect of it, I really strongly believe that we shouldn't go in that direction of what ChargePoint's doing, of having a charger that is completely integrated into your mechanical pedestal. What we believe is the future, and what we want to, the philosophy we want to follow is that you have, your concrete, all your work done, your utility work done with that pedestal. And if the charger of the future looks a little bit different, if perhaps, there's a different design or a different look or different amperage, whatever in the future, that can be mounted to that existing pedestal. You're not throwing out that whole mechanical mounting system. You can keep that and just swap out the charger, which would just require an electrician instead of doing, site work, concrete, et cetera. And then we really believe in this open source software instead of the closed source, which is what ChargePoint is doing. Future product roadmap. Here's a look at a at-home Resi type unit. So this will be a lower cost unit that will release in 2022, hopefully Q2 of 2022. Kind of a nice glow from the unit, nicely illuminated logo here. And this would be a unit that'll be lower cost and more tailored towards Resi use. And then I teased this a little bit in the past, in our presentation here, but we're thinking about combining Breezy V and our Solera solar lighting brand. So both of those together, and here's a look at what we'll be able to do. So think about charging pedestals, at a university campus. You go to a university and get them super excited, not only about adding EV charging to their campus, but then combining that with solar. How awesome is that? How awesome is the image that creates of complete sustainability, of having solar and electric vehicle charging all in one on an installation.